Hey, Matt here. Today I'm going to be doing another 200 zoom play and explain. Hopefully we get into some interesting spots. Versus small blind, usually I just play a more polar strategy, but sometimes you can. I notice if you ever run some sims, like small blind versus in position, you can actually bet small, but I couldn't tell you the difference. Here I suppose we'll just fold. Mix between call and 3-bet, mostly 3-bet. Versus a recreational, I think we can kind of do whatever we want here. To be honest, I'm just going to check though. Same on the turn. And then river, I think when it checks twice, especially versus a recreational, maybe we can get some value here. Nice. Force, interesting. We'll take it. Here, limp as well. I'm gonna just bet big, and I'm not too worried about getting raised, so I'll just bet big again. Watch, we're gonna get a raise the one time I'm not worried about getting raised. Alright, we'll take it. This board I don't think we're gonna see bet a lot. I don't hate checking this type of hand. We could bet sometimes, but I don't hate checking as well. And now versus the turn, bro, the question becomes, should we call? As we do beat some bluffs right now, although we can't really improve, so we're hoping that checks enough. I'm gonna fold, but I'm gonna look that one up later. It's interesting, I'm recording this on a Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which would be nights European time, and apparently I cannot open the lobby for some reason, but there's not many people playing at the moment. Check. Here I'll bet. I think the 1 Broadway too low. We'll just bet big. Here I'm going to probe. I think usually when it's a low board, overcard turn we can probe small. Here I'm just going to check again, and now I think there'll be some overbets here. This he does have some overpairs. Jack X, put them in a tough spot. And MP shouldn't open many 7s. Wow. Mix the 8s there. just do not know why I'm not allowed to open the lobby at the moment. So versus a recreational, what I've been trying to do, if you read my thread, is I want to play better versus recreationals this year. I think that's a huge source of win rate. So I'm just going to actually start sizing up, even though likely you wouldn't size up ever in theory. I think an option also is check back, knowing that recreationals will over probe, and maybe you could take advantage of that. I don't mind betting. Hand could use some protection, get some thin value, and on the donk, I'm going to call, seeing as it's a recreational and for half pot. Oh, nice. Yeah. A7 off calling small blind. That's pretty good. Not a clue what to do here. Versus 5.5x. I don't want to fold. The question is, do we call or do we 3-bet? I guess I'll call. Maybe actually there's a chance we could just fold versus 5.5. I mean, I have no idea. Here rolling higher, we're gonna take the aggressive action. That's how I use my RNG, and that'll be a mix there. And this is just 3x fold. I'm gonna just see if we can see what this player had. You know, I would be surprised if you say in the comments, "Oh, I should have just folded." I can honestly get behind that, but we'll take a look and see what this player shows down with. Wild one here. Versus the cold call 3-bet, I don't really, what a weird hand. I don't really want to c-bet that much, especially with a hand like this, because this is probably the hands that we want out of position to have here. And I don't think we're going to get a lot of folds. Or how should I let me rephrase that. When you bet for quote unquote protection, you also have to make sure that when called, you're still good the majority of the time. And I think in this situation, sure, maybe we could get some like king queen or like ace queen folds or something, but he also has so many pairs that's just going to call, and I don't know if betting the eights is worth it here. And here on the 87, I will barrel this off, but this could be thinnish, and now that it just goes check bet, I'll call. Unfortunate river, but like a hand like that, we don't really care about folding outright, so there's still, you know, we could have 9s, 10s, I mean not, I'm talking on the flop specifically, 9s, 10s, some jack X maybe, compared to like some of the random overcards that may or may not even fold flop. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to delay very often there. And now that it goes check, especially versus another recreational, I'm just going to bet everything. And from the data that I looked at, 75 seems to be a reasonable size versus recreationals in any line. I'm gonna 4-bet here. Normally I go 2.75 versus I I get normal 3.5x, but now we're getting 4x, so I think we can actually size down a little bit, even though we're slightly deeper. And here I mix call fold, roll a 49 fold. That's a pretty good flop for the 4-bet, isn't it? I don't think I would ever really call, to be honest. I haven't looked any sims versus 4x, but I would assume there's not many calls. So now the question becomes, okay, how do we get the most value? Probably just bet, 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 and hope we get some calls. Versus like going for a check raise or something like that. I feel like bet, bet, bet's probably better. I do have this player marked as a recreational, so I suppose that didn't really make sense. If I have him marked as a recreational, potentially, even in 4-bet pots, I think they still just overstab because their range is so wide. So maybe checking and hoping they barrel off is a potential option. But I think with all the maybe lower pairs or stuff like that, maybe it's better just to bet myself. Kind of talk maybe a little bit about recreational players getting better versus fish. Well, there's some downtime here. I used to just say, well, I'm just going to play solid, and as long as I play solid, I'll just win versus the fish no matter what, which likely is true. But there's just so much more free EV that you can gain by adjusting versus recreationals, and they're never going to notice that you're doing anything. I feel I'm just kind of being stupid by not trying to max exploit them. Ace 8, I always used to open from MP. I thought that was the cutoff, and looked it up a million times. It's not. It's Ace 9. At least in my Sims it is anyway. 2x will call. It's a pretty good flop. So again, same situation here. Versus recreational, I'm just gonna bet big 3 times, even though probably in theory you wouldn't do that. And that's a really good turn. Flush gets there, I usually do this. I'm not entirely certain how our probe strategy changes versus early position as opposed to the button, but I know when the flush comes in, you generally go 75. Mix open, and here I think we still want to bet a flush. I don't think we want to overbet, so I think just doing this is fine. Nice. I'm going to look that up, what the best sizes are and how that changes versus early position as opposed to button, and see if I was kind of right here. Here I'm not going to see about too much. I think this is a nice hand to just check back because we can always call turns. I don't know how true this heuristic is, but I heard this from somebody, and it seems to have worked in some spots. Is if you're able to call a turn probe, it's usually an okay hand to check back, as to where if you can't call a turn probe, maybe you should consider betting yourself on the flop. Now, that's a very, very broad rule, but I think it's something to consider. So here, obviously, we have bluff catcher. And I think that in this situation versus the size, we don't have to dive deep into this 4x to find calls. Especially 5, maybe blocking some bluff. So I think I'm just going to pure fold this. Here on this 5, this I think we would go like medium or check. The reason why I say medium is we don't really have 5 deuce, 10-5 really, so it's probably better to go medium instead of overbet. And the jack's pretty good, and we have some equity, so I'll continue. Although we did roll a 34, so maybe that could potentially mean we should check back some of the times, considering low numbers are my more passive ones. So seeing as we roll low number, I will check. Although I really wanted to bet that, to be completely honest. And now in the we're definitely betting. Question of size, and something like this is just probably fine. So have this player marked as a recreationalist. Again, as I said earlier in the video, usually 75 works just the best versus them. And yeah, I'm just gonna look at that, just a kind of a hand check, just to see how wide we can go when that overcard comes on the turn, because I know we can be pretty aggressive, especially when betting big. Although the jack, maybe there are some like jack eye floats, because there is some kind of backdoor straight interaction around the 10, but still. I don't see any reason to bet here. Same. Rolled high. Pretty good flop. Table 1. Ooh, big size. I think just call. Rolled tire. I'll open that sometime. I guess we have to call because we have 1 through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 2. Yeah, I guess we just call. We should have 35% at worst, and we actually have way more than that. Interesting. I'll make that player gambler, I think. Here's use big size for check, rolling 62. Whoa. Ah, this is the same player that opened. Okay, so in this situation, I am gonna 3-bet, but that's the same player at the beginning of the video that opened 5.5x, wasn't it? And the dog, interesting. We could be crying and hitting the call button and just hoping for the best, I guess. See, this is the problem. The question is, I feel like I'm just gonna call being this deep. Maybe this is terrible, and when he sized down like this, we just always have the best hand and we should raise, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna call. Wow. So this player now for sure is gonna be a gambler. Even though I saw that hand, I'm still not certain that, I mean, maybe. I was gonna say I'm still not certain we should raise, but then I'm thinking, well, what if he bet calls that off? So maybe we definitely have to raise. I'm honestly not sure. I'm curious to see how or what you guys think of that hand. You'll probably all tell me I'm a whale and I should have just raised, but I'm honestly really not sure. Especially because we only have 14 hands in that player. We don't really know. We saw him open 5.5 earlier, but like, what does that mean? Does that just mean a really good hand? It's tough to say. I mean, there's potential. There's some king jack, ace king. What else was there? You know, potentially pocket fours, and who knows? But then you see a hand like a7 in there, and you're like, okay, that's a little bit suspicious. I don't know. It's tough to say. I think we're going to set our next big blind here soon, because I think we're close to half an hour. Unfortunately, my timer got close. I'm not sure how close we are or not. But here for the check raise, I don't mind just doing this. Yeah. Versus recreational, again, there could be some merits in just checking, letting them over probe, and then just raising there as a bluff instead of betting range. I think even versus regulars, a lot of people simplify to like bet range or check range because they want to simplify their strategy on later streets. But if you look at some MDA, the exploits on later streets, when it goes check flop, are way bigger. They are still big when you use like a small size on the flop, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's just a whole other side of the game that nobody really thinks about that there is a lot of potential in. I guess we just shove because this player's recreational. This player's kind of tight, which is a little scary, but I just feel like there's nothing we can really do here. I actually think the jacks is a fold when I shove. And we hold. Nice. Right, this table is going to be sitting on next big blind, so you know what? Let's set out all the tables next big blind, and then we'll see how we did in this little half an hour session, and call it a day. Same situation I said earlier. Even though this is a board that's good for us versus a cold calling 3-bet range, I just don't know how well a hand like this performs. So I'm better off just check folding this even versus this crazy recreational there. All right, let's see how we did. Oh wow, I didn't expect it to be that good, but a little bit of heat, always nice. There's definitely some interesting spots versus recreational players today. Hands you can't really run into solvers, so it will be interesting to hear what you have to say about them. But I guess that's it. So thanks everyone for watching. I'll talk to you next time.